Maybe remind Council President, maybe she's on mute, maybe?
Council President?
Council President, if you're having a problem unmuting yourself, sometimes it's best to exit the meeting and then re-enter. That usually solves the issue.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
I was just reading my behind. I was just reading my behind off.
I'm glad you're here now, Council President. Glad you're here.
Let me read it. Let me read it again.
If you are not on the council, please mute yourself to the background noise. Be greatly appreciated.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act pursuant to Public Law 1975, Chapter 231. This agenda is complete to the extent known and was sent to the Trenton Times and Trenton newspapers, posted on the first floor bulletin board in the City Hall, filed in the City Clerk's office, and posted on the City of Trenton's website. Formal action will be taken. Mr. Conlon, roll call.
Yes, ma'am. I'll now call the roll. Mr. Blakely. Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson.
Present.
Mr. Harrison. Mr. Michelle.
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez.
That's it.
Ms. Vaughn. Council President McBride.
Present.
Council President, we do have a quorum. I'll call the directors now. Mr. Cruz.
Good evening, everyone. Present.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cherry.
Present. Hello, everyone.
Mr. Manali. Mr. Bridges is present, as well as Ms. Jacqueline Abdul-Razak.
Sally Samuel for the Lord of
Hey, Sally.
Ms. Samuel.
I actually
Director Coley. Director Coley. Chief Mazio.
Present.
Director Delisle.
Present.
Dr. Lopez.
Good evening, I'm present.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Anatiri.
Present.
Director Richardson. Director Lavenberg.
Good evening, present.
Acting Director Zelensky. Madam President, we have called the roll with the directors. Would you like to proceed to the presentation?
Council President, Robin Vaughn, Councilwoman West Ward just joined.
I'll note
Thank you.
for the record, ma'am. Thank you.
It's Councilman Blakely as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Harrison, have you joined us? Still waiting. Council President, would you like to proceed with the presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Lopez, there's the presentation for the update on COVID-19.
Yes, I can begin, Madam
Yes,
President?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So I want to start with our COVID vaccine. As of February the 12th, we have 1,435 individuals who were vaccinated by the city's Department of Health and Human Services team. Out of those individuals, 60% are white and 40% are Black and Hispanic. The total number of COVID cases in the city of Trenton is 6,425, with the total number of deaths at 85. Our daily average ranged from 5 to 10 positive cases daily. Looking at the trajectory of the city's vaccination, this is an increase from the initial percentage in January of this year, in which the brown and Black community was at 5 to 10% in vaccination. The mayor's office and the Department of Health and Human Services goal was to really reach minority population in our city. And with this outreach, we expect a shift in vaccinating more minority residents in the city in the coming weeks. Our outreach consisted of a newsletter that will be continuously mailed to residential and business owners. Our first newsletter was actually sent out 2 months ago. Our next newsletter will be expected to be launched and mailed within a week. We have ongoing meetings with faith leaders in our community, discussions with civic organization leaders, as well as fraternity and sorority presidents and members of the Panhandle, meetings with nonprofit agencies and Trenton Public School leaders. Our Trenton Health Team provides us with statistical data, which is important and shows the hospitalizations and ER COVID-related visits to identify hotspots in the city of Trenton. That helps with us scheduling our testing pods throughout the city of Trenton. Our panel platforms on social media, WDAS-FM, or other media circuits such as newspapers and news has also been an outreach in these past 5 to 6 weeks. We are also launching neighborhood billboards throughout the city regarding vaccinations. We're partnering with the county, other municipalities, and states to ensure a seamless process for the vaccination clinic, because it's a lot of logistics when you're trying to have just one day of a vaccination clinic. Through this outreach platform, we have made tremendous strides through the development of our COVID vac email and calling system. We are looking at race and ethnic breakdown, as well as underlying medical conditions in the city. That is very key for us coming from the public health department. We are seeing an increase in hypertension, the asthma, high cholesterol, diabetes. So these are some of the things we're looking at, and we're looking at trying to partner with Henry J. Austin and other hospitals to come up with a health fair virtually, define mechanism and ways to really curb this, in a sense, for the city. So this does help us in our vaccination and looking at the breakdown of race and ethnicity, but also the underlying medical conditions as well. During our last vaccination clinic on February the 12th, we vaccinated 238 individuals. 51% was Black and Hispanic, 49% were white or other. Out of those other, a few have been identified as Native American. These are just the city vaccinations. There are other entities who partner with the county or state in efforts to vaccinate the city, such as Henry J. Austin, St. Francis, the county, along with Capitol Health, Walgreens, and also CVS. For example, on the 23rd of this month, CVS will be vaccinating approximately 265 residents in the Trenton Housing Authority. So, and having multiple discussions with Pam Brooks and how my department will be assisting her in this process shows that we are all in this together and how we're collaborating to really vaccinate our community. Also, over the next 3 weeks, my department will be vaccinating approximately 4,000 individuals. So we're considered Team No Sleep right now. We're looking at 3,000 in partnership with FEMA and churches and mosques in the city of Trenton. We have been working endlessly with to enter these individuals in a fillable database, which was derived by our IT director and his team. We're truly thankful for the mayor and also the department directors and other city officials who have worked over the weekend and holiday to help my health team in this outreach effort. Of course, this does not impact overtime with the mayor and directors working on the weekend and holiday. Also, Trenton Public Schools and Henry J. Austin started vaccinating their employees. They started on February the 13th with 100 of their staff being vaccinated at Henry J. Austin. On the 14th of this month, additional 50 staff members were vaccinated. And then starting next week on the 19th, they will continue that same wave of staff members being vaccinated. Their priority are looking at Trenton residents who are Trenton Public School staff members and those who work directly with the community. We are truly making strides in our collaborative efforts in getting as many city residents vaccinated. As far as testing, we had our testing site today at Mott School. The one for Friday will be canceled due to having a vaccination clinic at the same time. However, on Thursday and Friday of this week, Department of Health and Trenton Public Schools will be having testing at Trenton Central High West from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we will continue with our testing because we strongly encourage continuous testing because we want our city residents to know their status. As far as the variants, so we have 3 variants that's out there, the UK variant, Brazil, and South African. The most dominant variant is the UK strand, the B117. It's present in 39 states, New Jersey included, as well as Trenton, which is the North Ward that was impacted with the UK strand. The second most dominant, which can be the most contagious, is the South African variant, the B1351, because it quickly spread it in 8 states with having 16 cases in such a short window. But the South African variant isn't here in New Jersey, but I'd just like to talk about all 3. So we do have individuals who love to travel, so I do like to share that. But we only have the UK variant, the strand that's in Trenton, which was in the North Ward. The Brazil variant, the P.1, is evident in 2 states, but it's not in New Jersey. So reinfection of these variants is rare, but it is likely. You will see scientists and researchers working in real time because COVID is new and there are no past studies to research or test. Viruses constantly change through mutation, and new variants of a virus are expected to occur over time. Sometimes variants emerge and disappear. Other times new variants emerge and persist. Thus the 3 variants that I'm referencing today. This is not to scare anyone, but just to educate about where we are and what we are doing for our community in regards to COVID. With the new variants, you can be reinfected. Just an example, in France, man, he's 58 years old. He had a history of asthma. He was reinfected and has been hospitalized in critical condition for about a month. Scientists are further investigating the cross-immunity between variants, the strands of COVID, and the effectiveness of vaccines against them. The good news is that the vaccine, Moderna and Pfizer, are better than natural infection and preventing you from getting reinfected. So both vaccines work against COVID and all variants as well, but it has a lowered effectiveness. But it's really truly suggestive and recommended that you do become vaccinated because it's so much better than having a natural infection and getting COVID. So that's where we are with our numbers, and just giving you a glimpse of some educational piece regarding COVID, the strands, the testing, and what we have been doing thus far with the department and the mayor's office in regards to the vaccination. Do anyone have any questions for me?
Yes, I do. This is Councilwoman Caldwell-Wilson.
Yes.
Director, I understand that we don't have the Moderna vaccine for the vaccines tomorrow.
Well, we're actually, Councilwoman Wilson, we encountered that before when we had bad weather because it was concerns, and we have a tracking, but we always have a backup plan that if we do not have the vaccines that's scheduled to arrive, we do have another mechanism in receiving the vaccine.
Well, will everybody be rescheduled or?
No, we're still going forward with the second dosage for tomorrow.
Oh, because I'm supposed to get my second dosage tomorrow, and I was told that they didn't have the Moderna.
Who told you didn't have the Moderna?
It came from, I got an email. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Okay. Yvette, are you on the line?
Let me see. It says,
Yes, Director.
second dose clinic cancellation. Due to the impact of adverse weather conditions, the Moderna vaccine has not been shipped out to all clinics and have been canceled until further notice. There will not be a clinic held at Trenton Fire Headquarters tomorrow.
When did you receive that? Because I didn't receive that notice.
I received the, let's see, 4:57 p.m.
Okay. I haven't been on my email, so I didn't get a phone call or an email regarding that. Yvette, you want to speak to that, ma'am?
Yes, if that's okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we are actually in the office right now, Director. I did send you a message, and I'm sure that you haven't seen it, but I apologize. We sent it late. We just got the message from the county after 5:30, stating that the vaccines are held up due to weather again in Kentucky. They won't be here for tomorrow, but we are planning to double up the clinic for Friday. And we will be sending out another email to say for those that are scheduled for tomorrow that they could come on Friday, and we will have a double clinic on Friday if the vaccines get here between tomorrow and Thursday. If not, we can still have those vaccine clinics next week, but we just want to wait until the shipment get here. And that is something that is out of our control.
Oh,
But we will
okay.
still have the clinic, and you won't be at the back of the line. You'll still have your same appointment time. We just need to make sure that the vaccines are here first.
Okay.
So we're looking at 500 for Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, my apologies, Councilwoman Wilson. I wasn't aware, and I'm glad Yvette was on the phone to clear that up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
just got the message.
Council President McBride, I have a question.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Wong.
I didn't hear with any clarity how residents can get registered for these shots.
Well, they go through the state registry. That's something our COVID vac email. So for those who have already registered through the state registry, they will receive an email letting them know they have registered. For those who are in the city of Trenton that want to be put on our waiting list, we advise them to reach out through us through the COVID vac email. It's covidvac@trentonnj.org, or they can call us at 609-989-3242. And it's also on the city's website, and it's been there for quite some time, Councilwoman Vaughn.
Yeah,
And we have stressed that also on our panel platforms and any social media or media circuits that we've been on.
Yeah, because I don't know if you're aware, but I received so many calls and questions about how to register, and no one's. It may be on the city website, but as you know, we are internet challenged in the city. Not everybody have access to the internet service or Wi-Fi, and some of us are not technically astute and are able to properly to navigate to certain pages. And the other thing is, then it's the phone option. But and I even try to call that number, and nobody ever answers it.
Right. And one thing I did make clear the last time when I spoke on that, Councilwoman Vaughn, is that my team did go out and took laptops and actually registered a lot of residents in the city of Trenton, especially our seniors, because we know they're not tech savvy. So we are out there mobilizing and doing the technological work for the community. So that we are doing, because we know everyone is not, efficient on a computer. We do make phone calls. When they do call in, we do call them back. And I can tell you for the phone calls that do come into the health department and I stress this wholeheartedly, that it's only covered from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And I can tell you, I've been there on the weekends and people are calling nonstop. They're sending emails 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not a call center. So it's kind of difficult when you don't have someone manning the phones that much. And that's why I stress also over the next 3 weeks, my team and I are vaccinating 4,000 residents. That's going to be a lot. So that means majority of the time, my team and I will not be in the office. Our goal will be out vaccinating the city. So we do have individuals who's manning those calls, but the calls are coming in so often and so many calls are coming in and email that even the individuals who are there covering the phones and email are not able to respond as quickly. So one thing that we are working on is a response, an email response to individuals who do send us an email, because sometimes they'll just send a blanket email saying, I want to be put on the waiting list, and there's no clear information of their name, phone number, address, no identifying information. So that's something that we're going to send back a automatic response to an email to individuals to know that if you want to do that, please send this information back so we can have that. Because when they send information back that they want to be vaccinated, but there's no return number or there's not a name, it's kind of hard to really maneuver through that. And so we just have to send an email back, and it may take some time in responding back. So those individuals
I understand that. And so I just want to say, one of the issues that have been experienced in other cities like Trenton, that has a demographic of Trenton, that have folks who are technically, that does not have access to the internet and et cetera. They are engaging their OEM staff, right? So fire, their emergency management resources. Are you leveraging any of those resources? Perhaps they can take the phone calls in the middle of the night.
Who can? Well, 211 is, so sometimes when they call, it may just be various questions they have. That's the purpose of 211 as well. That's on the website, and we tell them that it was something in the night. But we're not a call center, and it's not an urgency to put them on because many of them are already on the state registry. These are individuals that want to be put on our waiting list. So that's not an urgent matter to do something overtime, anyone over.
Okay. So you have all Trentonians registered. Everybody's been registered, and so you don't need anybody to man the call. So you don't expect a high volume anymore.
No, we do have a high volume. We have, 85,000 residents. So
Yeah, right.
Again, so we don't have 85,000 residents registered. And so with the number of staff that I do have, I'm being realistic, and I'm also preserving my staff and not burning them out because
And
running.
I'm just saying, can you leverage the fire department or OEM over there?
Well, many individuals are helping us, but they have other responsibilities, so
Okay.
they can help where they need to help. So manning a phone call, Councilwoman Vaughn, is not an urgent matter to put someone on a waiting list.
I'm saying that our residents are not getting the information. They are not registered. So when they're calling to get registered, there's nobody to answer the phone. That's all. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, majority of them are. And majority of them are. So the ones who may be coming to you complaining, you can send them directly to my office.
No. Again, you just said about 84,000 residents.
Correct.
You're not getting to those residents. So maybe so when those residents are calling, nobody's there, they can't get registered. There's nobody there to answer the call. You're saying that you're understaffed.
They're using voicemail, and we return calls for voicemail.
Okay.
That's the purpose of voicemail. And so we're getting to them. We're getting to them, and we do have a process in place. But we always welcome more suggestions, and we always, like I said before, we welcome City Council to come and help us as well, too.
Well, I just want to share with you comments that I've heard from larger cities, but still have issues like Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of New York City, particularly. I'll just say what de Blasio has done. They opened Yankee Stadium to try to reach out to that population that we are talking about now. Folks who don't have access, folks who will be most likely not to be scheduled on the state registrar. So they opened up Yankee Stadium for folks to come and get vaccinated, and the folks who showed up are the folks that they, who have the access. The folks that they opened the stadium for, who have limited access, can't make a phone call, can't get on the internet, don't have those services. Those are the candidates who are least likely to call, least likely to register on the state site. So all I'm saying is we have to do a better job of outreach. I don't know, if you don't have the resources to do that, then I would suspect that you would start considering, that it is an emergency. And that maybe we do need to use our EMS staff to help out the calls and outreach to get these people vaccinated. And
they are. That's what I'm telling you. They are.
Okay.
But they have other duties as well. So we are making strides. I can tell you the vaccination started January. I started January the 4th. It started the week after I started. So from that week into where we are now, we made some tremendous strides from where we are. I can tell you that because we had a lot of residents that were apprehensive in being vaccinated. And we went out and educated and we explained the difference and the importance of being vaccinated, the testing, about Moderna, about Pfizer. We educated and put it out there wholeheartedly in the community. And where we are now, we've done some great strides in that, Councilwoman Vaughn. So I can say, yeah, we can do more work, but I think that we made some great strides from where we started to where we are now. 5 to 10%, and now we at almost 41%. We're doing darn good. And I can just pat my team on the back of anyone that helped us, that we're rocking it here. And we're going to continue rocking it.
So you got 41% of the 84,000 residents have been vaccinated. I'm talking about
vaccination and race because we're talking about Black and brown who were not vaccinated and who were apprehensive about being vaccinated. So making strides in that department was key. Sometimes you got to change the mindset before you even look at trying to get someone registered. Apprehension.
Okay, so you say 41% of 50. We say we got 51% African American, about 35% Latino. So of that population of 85% of Black and brown, you say 41% have been vaccinated?
No, I said out of the number we vaccinated, 41%. are Black and Hispanic. That's what I
Okay,
said.
so what was that number? 41%
I
of.
told you earlier, 1,435.
Okay.
That's the number I told you earlier.
Okay. 1,400. Okay.
And 35, starting the second week of January to where we are now, based on the number of vaccines we were allocated, I think that we did very well and we did not waste not one vaccine. We done very well, and I'm going to always support my team and pat them on their back
Okay, so
because they're
1,000 out of 80,000 residents is, I don't think that's a good statistic, but
It's
okay.
a good statistic when they're
Keep tracking.
apprehensive about being vaccinated, ma'am. I can tell you that.
Well, we
Again,
needed
Council
to
President,
We
I'm
need to
done.
move on, is what we need to
Yes.
do.
a point of order.
Madam President, I have a comment.
Okay, go right ahead, Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, I'm very concerned about this number, 1435, 40% Black or Latinos, and 60% white. That was in the city residents?
Repeat that again.
You said out of 1435, 60% were white, but were those white people Trenton residents?
I said out of the 1,435 that was vaccinated, 60% were white, and then the remaining 40% was Black and Hispanic.
Yeah, but were they city residents, Trenton residents?
Trenton residents and those who work in the community as well. That was also the criteria. Those who work in the community.
Then you're not going by the numbers of the city, because I don't believe that we have 60% white residents in Trenton at
I'm
all.
just going by but I'm going by the numbers that we vaccinated, Councilman Rodriguez.
So that means
So
that
based on the
people
numbers
from
we
outside of
vaccinated,
Trenton, people from outside of Trenton have been using the services. Also, I registered through that email. It took me about 20 minutes, very difficult for somebody that is not technologically savvy to get registered. I never got an email. It was months ago, and I am 7 years old. They never answered. Never.
which website? Are you talking about the state website, Councilman
Yes, the state
Rodriguez?
website. I registered the first day.
Okay, we don't have no jurisdiction over the state, I can tell you that. But I will tell you that for our waiting list is different. Once you already registered, that's one thing. Those who are not technologically savvy, my team have went out and assisted the community in registering them on the state website. You have to be registered through the state first. That's the priority. So that's what we've been doing. We cannot deviate from that process. So that was one of the things that we have done. So again, I understand your concern, and we already
It is
know
not so effective then, because nobody contacted me at all. And I was referred to them by Henry J. Austin. I called Henry J. Austin first,
But that's
and
the
they
state,
referred
Councilman
me to the
Rodriguez.
state.
Yes, that's the state. We have no control over the state responding to you, sir.
You said that they were going to respond quick. That's what you said a few minutes ago.
You
I have
normally receive
another area that I'm concerned. The testing. What happened with the testing? Because
What about the test?
I have read a lot about that. The numbers now, they have been coming down because fewer people, since they have the vaccine, fewer people are being tested now due to the vaccine. Exactly what you said in Moscow, because they're going to use it for the vaccine. But that means that those numbers are not accurate, because that means if fewer people are being tested.
What numbers are inaccurate? What numbers are inaccurate, sir?
The numbers of the positive cases in the state.
Well, I didn't say the state positive numbers. I gave the numbers for the city.
I'm asking you, because that's what I said. So that means in Trenton, it's the same, that less people have been tested in Trenton lately.
Well,
ever since they started with the vaccine.
I'm going by our numbers, sir, of those that we vaccinated and those we tested. I'm only speaking for Trenton. I can't speak for the county, and I cannot speak for the state. And I said...
No, I'm not speaking about those. I'm using that as an example, man.
Okay.
I'm using that as an example. I'm not so stupid. I know what you mean. But, that means that in Trenton, there's more positive people around than what the records show.
And that's rightfully so. You're correct. And so, and when I say my team is out there vaccinating every day, we're being exposed to individuals who say they may not have COVID, but could have COVID, but they've never been tested. So this is why we always encourage continuous testing. I said that in my presentation, continuous testing, because you need to know your status, regardless if you're vaccinated or not, because you can receive your first dosage and still test positive for COVID. You can get your second dosage and still test positive for COVID. So again, testing is key. You should know your status. We truly encourage that. So our team has continuously been supporting and pushing that.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Dr. Lopez, I would just ask you if you could just repeat the phone number for the public again, please.
Sure, they can call 609-989-3242, and they can press 0 for the operator. Again, the phone calls are from Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and you can leave a message. And if the voice message is full, just call back during working day hours, because no one is there to man the phones after hours or on the weekend. I truly appreciate it.
I didn't get the whole number.
609-989-3242, press 0 for the operator. That way you can avoid all the different prompts that you need to go to. So you just press 0 for the operator to help you out.
Okay, I guess I have to go to schedule myself.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Lopez.
You're welcome.
Mr. Collins, you can continue.
Council President, do you have me marked down? It's Councilman Harrison.
Yes, Mr. Harrison, I marked you down. I saw when you came in.
Okay. All right. Ms. Lopez, if you need help, I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Mr. Collins, you may continue.
Yes, ma'am. We will now go into the docket review. The minutes for approval will be July 2nd, 2020. I am still working on the August 6th, 2020 minutes. I hope to have those to you tomorrow morning sometime. There will be 13 communications and petitions from the clerk's office. There will be 2 reports. One is a raffle, the other is a financial report of the $211,289.85 in revenues taken in.
Please put yourself on mute. Go ahead, Mr. Collins.
Yes, ma'am. There will be 2 ordinances for second review. First, we'll have 20-60. This is a public hearing for reconsideration. This is actual reconsideration pursuant to a mayoral veto. This is an ordinance establishing the position of legislative council and amending Article 1, City Council and City Clerks, and Article 6, Department of Law, and Chapter 2, Administration, Chapter 8316, Rules of Procedure, in the appendix of the Code of the City of Trenton. The second ordinance to be considered is a bond ordinance. That must pass by a supermajority. It is bond ordinance 21-2. Bond ordinance providing for improvements to various school buildings and grounds in the city of Trenton, the county of Mercer, New Jersey, appropriating the aggregate amount of $3,253,225, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,253,225. Bonds or notes of the city to finance the cost thereof. That was properly re-advertised due to the substantial amendment. We have 2 resolutions out of the clerk's office, and I'll start with the resolutions now. First, we have Resolution 21-047, resolution granting a renewal of the Planaria retail consumption license number 1111-33-099-008, 609 Lounge LLC for the 2021 licensing period. This is a pocket license. Any questions? Consent agenda, ma'am?
Yes.
Second resolution out of the clerk's office will be Resolution 21-069, a resolution to commission a proven library development and solutions expert to perform a study for the creation of 4 libraries in each ward in the city of Trenton. Question? I'd like to proceed, ma'am.
Yes, is there any questions about this resolution? If not, we may add it to the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Department of Administration, Adam Cruz, Business Administrator. First, we have Resolution 21-050, a resolution authorizing an additional 6-month contract extension to Unicorn HRO to continue to provide payroll and human resource information system services in an amount not to exceed $88,431.78 through competitive contract 2017-02.
I have a question.
Go right ahead, Councilwoman.
Mr. Cruz,
Yes, I am on, Madam Vice
Mr.
President.
Cruz, did you change that resolution to correct the dates? Because the date says that the 6-month extension is from September 7th, 2020 to April 6th, 2021. But the waiver states from September 12th, 2020 to March 31st, 2021.
Yes, Madam Vice President, we actually were successful in replacing the document that came from the from finance. So both documents now reflect September 7th.
Oh, Mr. Conlon had those documents, right?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Conlon, what about 21049, the resolution authorizing the acceptance of a civil suit settlement?
That was actually moved to the back because that's an executive session resolution.
Okay.
Ma'am, so that is on the back of the docket.
Okay.
But it is there in the docket, ma'am. We'll get to it at the end. Any other questions on 21-050?
You
How
may
would you
put
like
it
to
on the consent. Is there someone trying to say something? Okay, you may place that on the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-051, a resolution authorizing a contract to Insight Public Sector for software license and related services to provide Code Red Reverse 911 services through New Jersey State Contract Number M-000389853 in an amount not to exceed $22,050.15.
You may add it to the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-052, a resolution appointing Ron Zielinski as the Intern Chief Financial Officer for the City of Trenton.
You may roll call that.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have resolution from the Department of Police, Sheila A. Coley, Director. Resolution 21-024, a resolution accepting bids and awarding a contract to Security Guard, Inc., TA Tri-County Security for adult crossing guard services at the intersection of Layler Street and Route 129 for a period of 2 years at $77,750.40 per year in an amount not to exceed $155,500.80 through bid 2020-38. And if you recall, this was a tabled amendment. I did receive a memorandum from the Chief of Staff, Captain Wormanjenko, that I circulated to council for this.
All righty, who was the council person that tabled it?
I did. I believe I did.
Okay, would you please, would you allow this resolution to be put back on the docket for vote?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I
Okay.
motion to rescind the tabling.
Actually, no motion is necessary. It'll be just by operation, sir. So we're good. Did you want that roll call or consent agenda, ma'am?
No, on the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have resolution from the Department of Fire, Christopher Mazior, he's actually the acting director. Resolution 21-053, resolution authorizing contract to Reading Fire Equipment, Inc. for the purchase of uniforms, footwear, and fire equipment through New Jersey State Contract Number T-079017DPP00100 in an amount not to exceed $130,000.
You may put that in the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have resolutions from the Department of Housing and Economic Development. Benjamin Delisle, Director. First, we have Resolution 21-055, resolution rescinding the sale of a city-owned property located at 1261 East State Street, Block 26901, Lot 4, to Donald L. Bond, and authorizing the retainage of the deposit.
Mr. Okay, go right ahead, Councilman Rodriguez.
Yes, I have a comment on this because it was about a little bit over a year ago that we voted to accept these sales, and now they are back they are back to the city. What's going on? We had that about a few months ago also, another list of properties that were returned to the city. That time it was because of the COVID-19 supposedly, but this time we have almost all the ones that were into the auction, they are back. If that's going to continue happening in the city, what type of deals are these? When we sell the property and then after a year we get it back. That to me looks like a little game. I can't understand that. What's going on?
Council President, is it all right for me to respond? This is Director Delisle.
Yes, Director.
Thank you, Council President. Councilman Rodriguez, thank you for your questions. There are no games, and these properties never were sold or transferred title to the winning bidders. So what happened is we had the auction. They were the successful bidder. They just failed to close. They didn't provide their title work, or they he sent us an email asking to not close, that they were forfeiting their deposit and that they did not want to proceed with the transaction. So we contact people. We give them as much time as we can. We send certified letters. Some people just haven't responded to us. So this is just getting council's authorization to terminate that contract and retain the deposit. We'll then put these properties back on the next municipal auction. And this is not unusual. I think just history and talking to the staff with auctions in the past, upwards of half of the contracts or the closings never take place. People back out for one reason or another.
And that happens. The resolution 19633, those houses were under that resolution, and that means that we approved that resolution before they did anything about the closing.
The council authorized the auction sale and approved the prices, and then from there we reach out to them to have a contract and then schedule a closing. So somewhere in the process along the way, people back out. And so what happens is they forfeit their deposit. And then we still maintain ownership of the property, the city does, and then we'll look to sell it in a future auction.
Because the last time, the group of houses, we returned their deposit also, supposedly because of the virus. I don't know what that COVID-19 has to do with it, but, that's what happened last time. And I'm wondering now.
There are at times extenuating circumstances where we'll take it under their petition for us to return their deposit if there is something that's of no fault of their own. Sometimes there was a fire of an empty house that the city owns, or there was other damage. So that was between the auction time and when they went to closing. With COVID and the extenuating circumstances of COVID, there were some that we did ask the council to authorize returning their deposit. Again, something that was of no fault of their own. These ones here, that people either didn't request the deposit back, we never heard from them, or they were from times well before COVID, and they should have closed on these things. And we're catching up with a lot of the paperwork in the documents. So again, if every case is different and needs to be considered for its uniqueness.
So Council President?
Yes, go right ahead. Is
Yeah.
Councilman Rodriguez, are you finished?
No, I'm finished.
All right,
Yes.
thank you. Councilman
More,
Long.
just more to, there's another question on top of what Councilman Rodriguez spoke about. So why are we, did you mention that you're giving them a year? Like some of these recensions have happened, after a year of, changing our minds. Isn't there requirements for them to make the rehab the properties, 6 months after closure? Like how long are we giving these folks to rehabilitate these homes?
Councilwoman, in these instances, they have not completed the transaction, right? They haven't purchased it. So the clock to do the rehab wouldn't have started, right? Because they don't own the property.
So they never got the closure. So I guess my question is then, I'm sorry,
Right.
You're right. Okay. My bad. Didn't understand totally. So how long does it take them to close on the property though? How much time are we giving them? How much time is elapsing?
These particular properties here, it's gone on some time. It's been upwards of a year, and I certainly would like to shorten that. There's been a lot of things that have been very difficult, even with COVID. I mean, some of the title work wasn't happening, right? Courts were shut down. They weren't able to get their records from the county.
So all I would say to you
there was a lot of interruptions that we didn't even know about.
Okay, understood. But I think going forward, maybe there should be some type of strategy in your department to help folks who are interested in these properties and rehabbing, so that we don't get a high, reneging rate, I guess, or change of heart rate. I don't know what we want to call it. I know in other cities when they do redevelopment and houses and selling public property and for redevelopment purposes or investment, there are incentives that come along that the city provides, programs, right? Are we offering any of those type of programs, with community banks? Are we partnering with community banks to give people rehabilitation loans and discounted loans to help them rehab these properties?
The city is not extending rehab loans. We have, if you recall, the last auction, we did include an option to have a mortgage for folks. It could be up to 5 years. That's permissible by law. We certainly will point people in the right direction and encourage them to do that. We first-time homebuyer program with CDBG, but that can be very difficult, if not impossible, with properties that don't have certificates of occupancy. So the rehab is very difficult, and I think that's why you do have some high or a high number of people that do not close on the loans. They get into it and realize how difficult it is. The auction is not a perfect process for dilapidated properties.
Yeah. Again, I mean, it's just something to think about, Mr. Delisle, as the director of the Housing Economic Development, to minimize, this type of issue that the city getting these properties back. Maybe it's clear that the city needs to, partner with entities that are able to help, finance some of these projects, right? Because as I said, I know in other cities that is done. Like there are a lot of community banks are willing to help out and help folks get, low interest loans for rehab, right, purposes. If they're going to live in a home, if it's going to be their primary residence, I'm sure you are aware. I don't have to go through them, but there's all types of terms that are attached to these type of properties that will give people incentive to invest in inner cities and cities that have experienced blight and are in fiscal distress. So I don't know what we're doing here in the city of Trenton, but it seems like other cities have taken advantage and and have gone out and partnered with these banks to get this type of assistance. So I don't know, but I think that's something that you should think about if you haven't done so already.
All righty. So, Mr. Collins, is there anyone also in this? May continue.
Consent, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-057, a resolution rescinding the sale of city-owned property located at 113 South Logan Avenue, Block 27001, Lot 27, to Chaz T. Gass, and authorizing the retainage of the deposit. Consent agenda, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
I see it.
Collins?
I see it. Next, we have Resolution 21-058, a resolution rescinding the sale of city-owned property located at 229 Rosemont Avenue, Block 6402, Lot 4, to James Hines and Lisa Hines, and authorizing the retainage of the deposit. Would you like that as well on the consent?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next, we have Resolution 21-059, a resolution rescinding the sale of city-owned property located at 59-61 Ellsworth Avenue, Block 6106, Lot 1, to Wilmer A. Espinoza, and authorizing the retainage of the deposit. Consent, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-060, a resolution rescinding the sale of city-owned property located at 19 Eastburn Avenue, Block 21503, Lot 4, to Daniel Santiago, and authorizing the retainage of the deposit. Consent, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. And I believe this is the last of the set. Next, we have Resolution 21-061, a resolution rescinding the sale of a city-owned property located at 460 Garfield Avenue, Block 28902, Lot 8, to Trenton Logan LLC, and authorizing the retainage of the deposit. Consent, ma'am?
Before we consent, I would just like to ask the director if there is any type of forms that are attached to these deposits. For example, 059, did Ms. Espinoza give a statement or something that could be placed onto this actual application as to why she did not move forward? And I think that hits on what the Councilman Rodriguez was asking, why is it that we're returning all of these properties with the deposit? And I do understand the director's answer, but what I don't see is what is coming from the actual person that attempted to purchase the property. And I think that would help us along the way if there was some type of form that they had to fill out when they were getting these deposits back, showing the council why they didn't move forward with the purchase of the property, what was the roadblock for them as individuals. Because right now, the only thing that we have is a very vague answer, and I would like a more detailed answer when we're returning this amount of money, because we went to the newspapers and said, hey, we've gathered XYZ amount of dollars, but when you look at the returns, that dollar amount goes down. So if we could have some type of data attached to the return of these deposits, I think it would help us all. It's a way to keep track,
Okay.
and then we could determine why.
Just a point of information, Council President, these resolutions are actually retaining the deposit for the city. We are not returning them. They're forfeiting.
Okay. Oh, they're forfeiting. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Move that to consent agenda, ma'am?
Yes,
Thank you. Next.
thank you, Ms.
Oh, you're very welcome. ma'am. Retainage is like
I got it. We're retaining the money. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it clear. I got you. We'll make sure next time it is more clear. Next, we have resolutions from the Department of Public Works, Wahib Anatiri, Director. Resolution 21-062, a resolution authorizing change order number 2 in the amount of $1,631.25 to the contract with Wamana Electric Inc. to complete the installation of one Generac industrial gaseous 175-watt natural gas engine-driven generator at West Ward, engine number 9, 1464 West Street. Can I identify and mute that party, please? I can't find them.
49.
I got it. Okay. How would you like to proceed, ma'am? Or any questions? My apologies.
Consent, if there's no questions.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have resolution. Next, we have resolutions from the Department of Water and Sewer. Mark Lavenberg, Director.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I have a question on 21062. Oh, no, that's all right. Forget it.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-039 from the Department of Water and Sewer, Mark Lavenberg, Director. A resolution awarding a contract through a fair and open process in accordance with NJSA 19:44 Cap A-20.4 et sec. to Howard J. Woods Jr. and Associates, LLC, for professional services for an independent expert who is able to address cost allocation and rate setting issues for the Department of Water and Sewer in an amount not to exceed $45,000 for a period of 1 year through RFP 2020-53.
Council President. Council President.
Yes, go right ahead, Councilor Vaughn.
Is Mark Lavenberg on the line?
Yes, Councilwoman.
I don't understand why we need this, because we just did, the council just approved funding about a year and a half ago for an extensive analysis on rate setting with NW Financial Group. So why would we need another one? Are we due for another rate change? I don't think so, right? I think we agreed every 2 years, right?
Yes, that is my understanding, was we would review the rates every 2 years. You're correct in that statement. However, this is not to do with anything to do with our rate or rate changes. As you're well aware, we are in suit with the surrounding communities relative to our finances. I've asked Mr. DeHope to join us tonight to give us a little light on this. We are in the discovery phase of the lawsuit, and Mr. Woods is a highly qualified state expert with both the NJDEP, the judicial system. He is an expert witness, and Mr. DeHope can probably be much more eloquent in adding to that statement.
Mr. DeHope, are you on the line to speak to this resolution?
Yes, I am, Councilwoman Vaughn. Hopefully I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, very good.
Can I just jump in very quickly, Councilwoman Vaughn? I definitely think that council needs to hear Mr. DeHope's recitation of the reason for this. I just fear that we may be getting into ongoing litigation, as was just referenced, with the surrounding towns. I think that some of this information may be better articulated to council in an executive session, because it does deal specifically with very serious litigation that everyone's aware of, and it may get into some attorney-client privilege as well as litigation strategy.
Well, very good. Noted. Mr. DeHope, again, my question speaks to, and I believe this is public information, because everybody on this call is a resident of the city of Trenton, and hence is the owner of the water utility. So I don't think we need to go into the executive session for the question I'm about to ask. So NW Financial Group, we hired last year, did a whole analysis, and has the capability to assess the rates that have been applied, right? That we currently have, that we adjust across the water system, and for all the services that we that all the fees and services that we deliver to the customer. So why do we need this other group? What are they going to be doing specifically?
Specifically, in the litigation brought by the three outside municipalities against Trenton and Trenton Waterworks, they're alleging there's been an arbitrary allocation of city costs to Trenton Waterworks. They're alleging that excessive transfers to the city general fund have been made. They're claiming they've been overcharged, that the systems have been mismanaged. They should get lots of damages and the system should be taken over by somebody else who can better operate it. We need an expert who can hone in on these issues and hone in on them quickly. We can't wait till the end of the year. We have till March 1st to respond to detailed discovery requests related to documentation over the last 8 years of what Trenton has done in this regard with Trenton Waterworks. We have interrogatories we have to respond to about our theory of the case and who we're going to utilize. Mr. Woods is the leading expert in New Jersey on these issues. He was active in a similar case where the city of Ridgewood was challenged by three outside municipalities to which it provided water. He did an analysis of rates over a 6-year period for Ridgewood and demonstrated to the court that Ridgewood was not overcharging. And Ridgewood ended up not having to pay any money over to these towns at the end of the case. He has a specific expertise in this area, and he also can apply it to water operations because he has experience in managing water systems, both private for New Jersey American and American Waterworks when he was in the private sector, and public systems where he's done a lot of work assisting systems in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. He's really looked upon as the leading expert in the state on these issues, and we will be lucky to have him to help us. But the main thing is timing. The people you've hired to do the audit, I'm sure, are highly qualified. There's not even the remotest possibility they're going to be able to grapple with these issues at the rate of speed that Mr. Woods can, and also be prepared to act as an expert witness in court to defend the position of the city when the case comes to trial. So that's why the recommendation is there.
Oh, okay. I understand. So, all right. So they're going to be our expert witness. And for that, I didn't think that NW Financial Group has that expertise and certainly not recognized for it. So, I mean, how can I refuse this one? I'll be voting yes for this one for sure. Because God knows we want to win the case against our customers, and we want to protect the interests of the residents and taxpayers of the city, the owners of the water utility, wholeheartedly. So thank you, Mr. DeHope, and I appreciate it.
You may add it to the consent agenda, Mr. Conlon.
Thank you. I think Councilman Rodriguez may have had a question too. I just want to make sure.
It was about the same that Ms. Vaughn was talking about.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Resolution 21-063, a resolution authorizing payment for a contract with Waters and Bugby, Inc., awarded on an emergency basis for sewer repairs at 319 Market Street in an amount not to exceed $51,315.69 for the Trenton Sewer Utility.
Roll call, Mr. Conlon.
Next, we have Resolution 20. Did anybody have any questions or any other thing? Council President, would you like me to move on?
Yes, I have something to say about this. I believe that was a hole there for weeks on Market Street by I think Marsh knows about it, by the liquor store there. If this is the same one, because I was there, it wasn't an emergency because they didn't fix it right away. And, you know, I don't know what are these emergencies, because we have equipped, in the past 2.5 years, we have equipped waterworks of equipment, of personnel to handle this, to avoid these emergency issues. You know, how comes we keep on awarding contracts to Water Bosby, DuPont? You know, I cannot understand it. What's going on?
Councilman, would you like to answer that question?
As a question? Or?
Answer the question?
Well, I like an answer, because by now, we shouldn't have to have all these emergency contracts.
I'm not sure if that was a question, Councilman Rodriguez, or...
Why was this an emergency when it was there for weeks, was leaking water for weeks, and nobody did anything? All of a sudden, somebody in the internet complained, and that's where I guess, I'm not sure, but that's probably what happened, that all of a sudden it became an emergency. But while the water was leaking and breaking up the road, it wasn't an emergency.
Councilman Rodriguez, I can't speak to water coming up out of the road. This was a sewer line, not a water line. The description that I got for it, this involved a significant amount of traffic control on Market Street, which is a very busy road. Being a sewer line is significantly deeper than a water line. A water line generally is about 4 feet deep. Sewer lines can anywhere be 10 to 15 feet deep. And so you have different types of equipment that is beyond the scope of which we do that work.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Vaughn, go right ahead.
Okay. Yes, I agree with Council President that it should be roll called. And I agree with the question that Councilman Rodriguez just asked. I'm not satisfied with the answer that the director has put forward, because that's the same answer that we get every time we question an emergency contract. Same exact answer. The sewer line is deeper than the water line, and they got to dig a deeper hole. But the question is very specific, Mr. Lavenberg, is that emergency per DCA qualifies for an event that has to be addressed and fixed immediately. And this is not what's happening on Market Street. So we're concerned, as you well know, that your definition of emergency, and I don't know what liberties you are giving these contractors, in this case, Waters Bugsby, to label a contract emergency just because what? Are you trying to get around the RFP process? I mean, this is a concern for the residents and taxpayers of the city. You just can't get around the RFP process by just saying it's an emergency.
Please be assured I am not getting around an RFP process, which would not be applicable in this case. Okay, this would be a bid job, not something that we put out an RFQ for. Now, if a resident...
No. Yes, it would be. Well, again, excuse me, Mr. Lavenberg, you have put forward to this council for approval for emergency. So anything that's not an emergency has to go out to RFP. Do you not understand that?
Not for an RFP, Councilwoman. I respectfully disagree. You have to go out for bid. An RFP is for professional services.
Okay, well, all right, so go out to bid. In order to go out to bid, gotta.
Very good. And as you're well aware, it does take a certain period of time. You have to advertise it for a minimum of 10 days. Then you have to have it award, come up with a resolution, have the resolution passed. The timeline generally is 2 to 3 months to get it done. In this case, we had a residence, okay, or a business that had a sewer line, and the sewer line was blocked. So when your sewer line is blocked, obviously you can't use your toilet, you can't shower, you can't use anything. So it does become quite urgent. Now, I would recommend and I would propose going forward that we should have a bidding process for this type of work on the sewer side. We do have it on the water side for water repairs, as you're aware. But, in this case, this was on the sewer side, and it was an emergency and it needed to be done. Again, significant amount of traffic control and work that is, not under the water side. It's on the sewer side.
Okay. Is Mr. Cruz on the line? Because Mr. Lavenberg, you've only been here for a couple of months, so we did discuss the sewer side. So emergency contracts on the sewer side. So Mr. Cruz, is he available, the business administrator? Is Mr. Cruz available?
Yes, I am available.
Yeah. So you know that when Dr. Shea was the director, we discussed this ad nauseum about coming up with a process that for emergency contracts. And what Mr. Lavenberg is describing here does not even come close to what we talked about, and coming up with a fund of some sort to a fixed number during the course of the budget year to fund these emergency events. So have we not done that, Mr. Cruz?
We actually tried in the past passing a resolution to award contract for emergency breaks for the water lines. I don't recall seeing one for the sewer lines, which is it would be two different contracts. But I know that the intent has been there from the department to try to adopt a resolution to award contract for emergency repairs.
Well, the emergency fund, when you say Trenton Waterworks is the Department of Water and Sewer. So, okay. So maybe we need to bring that resolution back and amend it. But nonetheless, let's just move on. We're going to roll call this. I don't believe it's an emergency here, and I think it was improperly classified to get around the bid process.
Council President, may I?
Go right ahead, Councilwoman Caldwell-Wilson.
Mr. Cruz.
Hi, yes.
Is this the call that I made on an emergency basis at the corner of Market and Jackson, where the street was sinking and the grate was falling in and cars were getting damaged?
I believe so. Mr. Levenberg, is that the one?
I don't believe that was the one. I believe this one was a sewer line. The other one was a storm drain.
Okay.
But again, in essence, we had a building that if we did not respond, you were going to have a widespread loss of service and a danger to the health of the public.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'd be happy to come back with another resolution for that type of work.
Okay.
You may continue. Mr. Collins, you may continue.
Next, we have Resolution 21-064, a resolution exercising the option to extend the contract for an additional year awarded to PVS Technologies, Inc. for the furnishing and delivery of ferric chloride at the water filtration plant in an amount not to exceed $715,200 through bid 2020-10.
Roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to proceed, Council President?
Yes, please.
Next, we have Resolution 21-065, a resolution accepting a bid and awarding a contract to Core and Main LP for the furnishing and delivery of Mueller brass water service fittings that are used for the repair, renewal, or installation of water services from the curb stop shut-off valve behind the curb to the water main in the street located at 333 Cortlandt Street, Trenton, New Jersey, in an amount not to exceed $227,175.81 through bid 2021-03.
Roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-066, a resolution authorizing a contract awarded to CDW Government for the purchase of laptops, monitors, docking stations, and accessories for the employees of the Department of Water and Filtration Plant to be able to work from home due to COVID-19, awarded through Middlesex Education Services Commission of New Jersey, ESCNJ, 18/19-03, in an amount not to exceed $17,876.01.
Roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Roll call.
Next, we have Resolution 21-067, a resolution exercising the option to extend the contract awarded to the K Street Group for security guard services at the Water Distribution Center in an amount not to exceed $291,270 at an hourly rate of $33.25 per hour for an additional 1 year through bid 2020-08.
Mr. Lavenberg,
Yes,
I don't believe this contract should even be in existence. For one, when this contract was first brought to the council, they said that they used this contract at Cortlandt Street. They needed armed guards, and I ride past there every single day trying to figure out, how do you need armed guards when you have a wrought iron fence? It's locked on the weekends. There's no one there after hours. And so I've never seen an armed guard out there in the first place. And for over $250,000, and it's, to me, this, we approved the K Street security for the filtration plant, but for over there on Cortlandt Street, and not only is this over $250,000, but the fact that we have security firms licensed to carry weapons here in the city and in Ewing, this should have been, this bid should have been thrown out and rebidded based on all the above, that anybody could drive by Cortlandt Street and see that there is no armed guards out there. Second, the equipment that's in the yard is secure by a wrought iron fence, and no one is ever there after hours. So to pay over $250,000, saying because the guards are armed, this is a far stretch, and it never should have came back. We asked Mr. Cruz not to bring this back, and he did anyway. This is just a bit much here for me. So you can roll call it, Mr. Conlon.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, President McBride.
All right ahead.
Thank you. So I wanted to, Mr. Lavenberg, can you explain why this is necessary? And I think President McBride brings up some really good points that I'd like to hear your response to.
Okay. Councilor Blickey, I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the council president's statement. I really have to say, on the face of it, in 2019 when I was working, I had the exact same sentiments, going on about that. And, one being, working at the filtration plant, I felt like, why in the world do I need an armed guard at the filtration plant? And without going into security details, which should never be discussed.
This is not for the filtration plant, Mr. Lavenberg. This is for Marbury Street.
I much appreciated, Council President. And so, the events that occurred last week relative that happened down in Florida made me grateful for what goes on at the filtration plant. But more importantly, to your question relative to Cortlandt Street, the security guard is posted on now what is the employee's entrance to the building. Okay, we have the one section for residents that come in and pay their bills. That section, you're right, is that gate is closed. The other gate is open, and the guard who is there has really played a very active role during COVID, as in dealing with people that are coming to the building, because we have residents that come to the building every day. I interact with them, but we're not allowing the public into the building, so he's very instrumental in greeting the people there, getting the people from upstairs to talk, and they work out a way of communicating so people can, pay their bills or deal with issues that they're having with their bills. And in addition to that, we also do COVID screening, which is security guards, similar to the situation you have at City Hall, same as Cortlandt Street. He's the guy that's enforcing, making sure people do temperature checks, and not allowing people in, if they set off the meter or issues as well as that. In addition to the nighttime activity that goes on there as well, we do have a fence that does cover the property completely, but we do have a high incident of people breaking into the yard. We've had cases of having vehicles stripped. Prior to this, we have people came in, they actually dug a hole into the side of the building and had access to our brass meters. that we recycle, and we send that out. And that was detected by the security force that was there. So when the person's there at nights and on weekends, they are monitoring the security system and then reacting to anything that goes on in the yard. So, you know,
let me ask the follow-up. The question that I have is, okay, I understand the importance of having a security guard, right, of any public facility, right? I get that. But do we need an armed guard? Because I think the armed aspect of this security detail is what is contributing to the cost, right? So, you know, would it be prudent for us to not spend more than $250,000 and have significantly reduced amounts of actual folks or actual security guards? Because I think, you know, it's pretty excessive. And just because you need security guards doesn't mean that you need armed security guards. Because, I mean, has anybody ever pulled out their gun? Like, why do we have armed security guards compared to just your regular security guards? Can you explain why we need armed folks?
All right. So as it was explained to me, and again, this came on, you know, I saw it come on. I had questions about it at the time, and I followed up with those questions. And that would be to discourage workplace violence. And, you know, in the water business, we do have customers that are not satisfied with their bills when they get excessive bills or they feel they've been mistreated improperly. Yes, so sometimes it gets very, very confrontational, and, you know, they want to take that out on the utility. So that was my understanding for the reasoning behind having an armed service to do it. Like I said, at the filtration plant, I certainly understand that now, and I appreciate it. And as far as, you know, the billing and customer service area and it being a public building, they are armed guards, which I assume would be the same as at City Hall. I assume that the guards there would be as well.
I don't think they have armed security guards at City Hall.
Okay, I can't answer this question. I can only tell you this is what
So my idea is, if City Hall, which is a place in the clerk's office, like, the idea that there's going to be armed guards for the waterworks, the building that we're talking about, and that we're not going to have armed guards at City Hall and in the clerk's office, then that doesn't make any sense, because you have customers coming in who are unhappy. Hell, if I had, you know, paying some of these high taxes in the city of Trenton, I'd be really upset going to the tax to drop off my check in City Hall. So for that reason, until I hear a reasonable explanation for why we need armed security for this facility, I'm probably going to be voting no for this, because for the points that Council President McBride brought up, this seems rather excessive, and we should be spending money in other areas. And that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We may continue, Mr. Conlon.
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Resolution 21-06C, a resolution accepting a bid and awarding a contract to CBIS Direct, Inc. for printing and mailing services for regular, final, and corrected billing for the Water Billing Division in an amount not to exceed $149,512.72 per year bid 2021-06.
If there's no questions, you may add it to the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Council President McBride.
Yes, go right ahead, Councilwoman.
Can we just go back to, I'm sorry, I mean, my bad. Clearly I wasn't paying attention, but 21066. Can I just ask Mr. Cruz, why aren't these laptops being sourced through the technology department under Joe Rivera and BAFA?
I'm sorry, why are they filtrated?
Resolution 21066, resolution authorizing a contract awarded to CW CDW government for the purchase of laptops and monitors and docking stations and accessories for the employees of the Department of Water and Filtration Plant.
Yes.
To be able to work from home. So they're going to get computers to work from home from this. I mean, why aren't they sourcing this through our technology department?
Normally, the department, water department will buy their stuff out of their budget, but they are in communications with our IT to ensure that we keep track of them and install whatever I guess is needed in the laptops. And
I mean, Council President, I don't know if this, Mr.
It's already roll called.
Okay, very good. And I just want to say that is unacceptable. Everything technology should be going through, particularly purchase of laptops and stuff should be going through our technology department.
And it does. They are in communication with the IT to make purchases.
President McBride?
Yes, go right ahead, Councilman Logan.
So I think that, listen, I am supportive of capital expenditures for or capital projects around fixing the water, the pipes and all that stuff. I'm supportive of expenditures on those areas. But I think that it just seems like there's a lot of money for stuff that we don't really need, that are nice to have, but does this division already have, does the water department already have laptops and areas? What was the last expenditure? And, can we, how have they been getting by so far with remote, remote work?
Yeah. So, Councilman, thank you for the question. During the COVID pandemic, as you are aware, there were times where the building itself was shut down. Customer service, everybody had to work from home. This has never happened before. So we now need to buy equipment for these individuals when they are on the A and B team, that they can continue to work from home. They will not be in the building exposed, but they will still need access to the system, so that when they are receiving calls from customers, because some of this equipment is going to customer service, and they can, as they receive calls, they can go in the system, check out their account number or whatever it is, and they can provide the service from home. Your question was, how have they been getting, how have they been performing the work? Maestro was nice enough to allow the city to use some of his laptops so that they can do work currently. And but it's gone way beyond a reasonable amount of time. And we now, the city did not bid for that kind of a service. I mean, they're going out of their way to allow us to use some of their laptops for them to perform the work. And that is how it is being currently done right now. So that's the reason why you see $17,000 in new purchases, and that is to acquire that equipment for these individuals to take them home and continue to work from home.
All right, thank you.
Council President?
I just want to make a statement, and that statement is that I do understand that they need to be able to work from home, but I remember when the city shut down, when we had the COVID cases, the city didn't even have a forwarding number for the residents. There was they never even went to their systems and forwarded numbers for the residents of the city of Trenton. So when you say work from home, you have the computers, but yet and still when the people call in for services to find out, where they should be going, how to submit their tax payment if the city hall is closed, there were no forwarding numbers. No one had forwarded numbers. So I just don't get it. You can't say we want them to work from home, but then you don't give the public the access to them when they're working from home. It makes no sense. So, it is what it is. Thank you, Mr. Conlon.
Again, Council President, I just want to state one thing very quickly about this 21066. I'm speaking to Mr. Cruz and Mr. Joe Rivera. We talk about purchasing computer equipment and hardware across the city. I never worked in an organization where when you source hardware, laptops and monitors, a department or division gets to go out and buy their own. That should go through the technology department. The technology department services the laptops. They train. They configure it to the specifications of the city of Trenton. So why is it that I just don't get why we need to start having every department in the city to go out and source their own technology equipment. It makes no sense if we're going with a single platform that's uniformly configured across the board. So that's all I want to say about that. And I think that Mr. Cruz should not be allowed that one department gets to go rogue here and get to go buy their own computer equipment. It should be singly sourced through Joe Rivera, the Chief Technology Officer, period. But thank you.
Yeah, Madam President, the water department is going through Joe Rivera. It's just that the funding is coming from the water department. As you know, they make their own money and they don't use the city money. So that's the reason why it has to be bought by the water department. But IT has been in constant communication with the director as well as the individuals in water who were in need of the equipment. I never said that that they were not going through IT. They are going through IT.
Well, there's other revenue generating entities. The water department does not make their own money. That money belongs to the city of Trenton. They are not an authority. So
Ratepayers, madam.
Ratepayers, they're customers. We're owners. You work for the owners, Mr. Cruz. You work for the residents of this city. You better start recognizing that, sir.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Collins, we may continue.
Yes, the last of the resolutions, madam, are 21-048, a resolution authorizing the City Council of the City of Trenton to hold an executive session.
Trenton's not ratepayers. Trentonians are ratepayers too.
Councilwoman.
She goes.
Councilwoman.
Yes, Council President.
Yes, we have to stay focused here. Mr. Collins, will you continue?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution 21-048, a resolution authorizing the City Council of the City of Trenton to hold an executive session which excludes the public due to attorney-client privilege in litigation. This is a discussion regarding an updated litigation and a settlement discussion of a civil suit against the City of Trenton in the United States District Court for the District of New Jersey under civil action number 3:19-CV-21743. This will be roll call, ma'am. Next, we will also have a resolution, post-executive session, Resolution 21-049, for consideration by the council, a resolution which may authorize the acceptance of a civil suit settlement in the matter of Reveal L. Giddens versus the City of Trenton in an amount of $15,000. That likewise will be roll called. Last, we have the first reading and introduction of a bond ordinance. This is 2106, a bond ordinance providing for the purchase and installation of a new boiler system at the Hedgepeth Williams School on behalf of the Trenton Board of Education for the City of Trenton in the County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, reappropriating $361,774.32 from various bond ordinances to finance part of the cost thereof. And that likewise will be roll called. Ma'am, that is the end of the docket. If you would like, we can proceed to public comments on docket items only. Ladies and gentlemen, this is
Council President.
Yes, Councilman Harrison.
Hey, could I get a little more understanding On the resolution 216609. 21609. Is that 4 new libraries or is that 4 existing libraries?
It's for study. It's for a comprehensive study. Just a study.
It's just a study.
Okay. Yes.
Because I was thinking them. Yeah. So it's not a new library. Okay. It's just a study. Okay. No, thank you very much. That's it.
A study.
Yep. Thank you.
All righty. Mr. Collin, we may continue with the public comment based on the docket.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the public comment portion of the City Council meeting. This is on docket items only. If you wish to make open comments, you can do that on Thursday night at the public comment section. But for right now, this would be limited to 10 minutes on docket items only. Council President, we have Mr. Michael Renewal first.
Yes, go right ahead, Mr. Renewal.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to speak to under communications and petitions, number 2B. I think it's incredible that a taxpayer must resort to a lawsuit in order to get public information, while the council clerk has the time available to write 30-page letters in order to support his $3 million tort claim against the city. Anyone involved in bringing the current clerk into Trenton should, at this point, be ashamed of themselves and should explain how his ongoing employment is best serving the residents of Trenton. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person.
Council President, we have Lydia Thornton.
Ms. Thornton.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Lydia Thornton, 1219 West State Street. I don't know the exact docket number, but something was said during the questions that were asked about the computers for the water department that caught my ear. And that is that an outside company was allowing us to use their laptops to do the business of waterworks, which, while it's generous of them and kind, I'm concerned about the privacy issues involved in that. If the waterworks were doing business such as invoicing, billing, and all that on laptops owned by an outside company, that does not seem to me to be the best form of practice to ever use. And if council was unaware of this until that was just said, that's a problem in my book. I mean, credit card numbers and account numbers and billing information isn't public knowledge necessarily, particularly the credit card numbers, and that's a concern. I'm glad that we're doing the study for the libraries. I think it's needed. And thank you for letting me have my say.
Thank you. Next, Mr.
Council President, we have Ms. Janice Williams.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Yes, good evening, Madam President. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. I don't remember what docket number was, but it was at the beginning regarding the floating of the bonds for structural work being done at Trenton Central High School, and especially the AstroTurf. I'm here this evening to sound the clarion call to tell this council that we should not be floating a bond for AstroTurf. I was quite taken back about the last discussion about should it be AstroTurf, should it be grass, should it be AstroTurf, should it be grass. We in the city of Trenton need to repair our school buildings, especially Jefferson School, in order for the city of Trenton to have a gifted and talented magnet school. I don't know of any major urban cities that does not have a school for our gifted students. They seem to be discriminated against here in the city of Trenton. We lose all of our academic students to charter and private institutions. This should not allow to continue to go on. I'd rather you float a bond to repair Jefferson School, its windows, its roof, so we can use that as the identified site for an academic gifted magnet program that discriminated population deserves. We always yield to what our bilingual students need, which I am in agreement with. We always yield to our special education students. But what about our academically gifted students? When are they going to receive an opportunity here in the city of Trenton? That is why we lose them when they leave the city of Trenton and they do not return back. They're not returning back for a reason. This is the only city, and I've been a district employee for the past 40 years. We once had a thriving G&T program. That program has since, in the last 20 years, has been put on the back burner. Can you name an urban black city that does not have a G&T magnet school? And we're arguing about whether it should be turf or grass. While I appreciate athletics and the social interaction that it provides and the team building work that it provides, but what about this forgotten population here in the city of Trenton? Who is going to advocate for them? I'm hoping that this city council will join me in a resolution that will be sent to the Board of Education, asking them to advocate and seek out floating bonds for the upgrade of the Jefferson Elementary School to be turned into a gifted and talented magnet school. We owe this to our gifted students here in the city of Trenton, and perhaps we will stop losing them to charter and private education because the parents of the city of Trenton will deem our facilities appropriate enough for them to want to send their academic students, to entrust them to us. So please support a resolution demanding that the city of Trenton identify and fix up through a floating bond Jefferson Elementary School instead of having a discussion about AstroTurf versus grass. Come on, let's get real. What's important here in the city in Trenton? We place too much emphasis on sports over academics. We need to reverse that, people. Both are important, but we have discriminated against our giftedness here in the city of Trenton, and we must put it on the forefront of educating our students. Thank you for your time and attention. Please say no to the floating bond for the lane of AstroTurf on a football field when we are virtual right now, people. We are having students with lost learning time. One, because we're in a pandemic. Two, because our classrooms are overcrowded with 28, 29, 30, 31 students. The board just rejected a reconstruction plan to alleviate class size. I want to know where those students are going to be going in September. I might have to send them to some of the board members' houses because we don't have any more room in our city schools to accommodate these students. Please say no to the laying of AstroTurf and put that money into a gifted magnet school for our students here in the city of Trenton. Thank you for your time and attention.
I'd like to go down the agenda. I hope the ordinance for 2060 is passed, and I think it came up with a compromise in which there's an ordinance to separate the city attorneys from the council. I would like to piggyback on to Ms. Janice Williams for 21-2. But before I do that, 21-2 and 21-06, 21-06 is written into 21-2. So I don't know if you pulled that cost out of this bond for 21-2, but it needs to be pulled out if you're going to separate it and give it its own resolution for 21-06. As I stated, I've worked in the school district before, and yeah, I do agree with what Ms. Janice has stated, but also I like to offer more information. Trenton School District, the board does not put money into the classrooms. Some of the teachers are buying supplies, has been buying before the pandemic, and even now with the pandemic. Some of the teachers who are invested are buying the supplies for students in their classrooms, okay? From book bags to pencils to paper to whatever the needs their students have. So to me, and I think they give them a $200 stipend every year, the beginning of the year, to buy supplies. So this money that you all are trying to put into bleachers, turf, or whatever really needs to be reinvested into the classroom. And a lot of the books that are in those classrooms are old. 20, 30 years old. Some of the students didn't even know what a dictionary was, and this is high school, okay? And some of the dictionaries they did have was so outdated that they had to be thrown away. And they don't have books for kids. They're photocopying a lot of that stuff. They're not ordering books for students. They weren't in 2010, okay? not to hold up on that. For 21069, the Resident Commission approved it for the library. It didn't have a cost on here, so I'm assuming somebody is volunteering to do this study without cost to Trenton. But we already have libraries. I don't know really what that is. To me, it's just putting money aside to fund the libraries. And right now, I understand that we're in the budget. We're on the budget cycle, and we're trying to figure out how to keep the tax flat. But somehow, you know, the city has to put money aside in that budget instead of spending out for outside contractors to fund our libraries. 21050, resolution authorizing budget. Oh, yeah, 21050. We're paying, I looked on here, under the administrator, there is a payroll supervisor and a senior payroll clerk. Now, here we have a thing for payroll and human resource information system service. So why are we paying people if we got a outside company providing payroll? I don't get that. 21051, should this resolution be presented to the, shouldn't this resolution be under the police director in regards to 911 services throughout the New Jersey state contract? I'm not really understanding why that's under the business administrator. 21052, authorize, and again, here we get ready to hire intern chief financial officer. Does this, because the person who resigned, what's her name, Janice Schroeder, she was, I'm assuming she was a CPA, and she also held interim for the finance director. But does this gentleman have the qualifications, or are we just hiring again somebody based on the resume? And are we going to have to find resolutions to bring in some experts to help him train his staff and him to do his job? So that's my question on that. Is it necessary? 21062, which is great. 21039, open process in accordance with, again, it's the Mr. Lavenberg. He really should be doing this. That's what we're paying him $100 and something thousand for. I mean, this here 2139 should be what his expertise is. I don't understand why this gentleman is in this job and he's contracting stuff that should fall under his job, his title. I mean, that's why he was hired, because he comes with these experience from working in other water departments. Where's the experience? Again, I agree with 21063. This is not an emergency, so this should be bidded out. 21065, that's an internal job. Why are we continuing to hire a contract to do something internal? And if there's an issue about equipment that Trenton Waterworks and Sewage do not have, you can rent the equipment a whole lot cheaper. And I'm sure there should be people on staff who would know how to go in and drill down into a 15 feet hole, or however deep it is. 21067, again, the workplace violence, I agree with all counsel in regards to that. We don't need an armed guard, because it seems like this, it's going to be a shooting gallery. That's not a necessary cost. And we do have, I think it's cheaper just to hire the security that we already have employed with the city of Trenton to do that. I'm sure they'd be welcomed for the work. And for 2168, again, what do we need this for? This is a cost for printing. Don't we have staff? What are people doing down there? You don't have staff to do the mailing? You put that on the consent agenda. I don't get. What are we paying people for? What is this? I just don't get it. We don't have people, because to me, if you're going to hire contractors, we might as well lay off everybody who works for the city. Hire contractors. You got to make a choice. You can't do both. And for 2106, this resolution, okay, this resolution, again, I stated earlier, is included in 21.2. It has to be pulled, and that means this resolution for 2106 that amount has to be changed again if you're going to make that a separate resolution. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett. Mr. Conlon?
Yes, ma'am. Next, we have Mr. Darren Freedom Green.
Yes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead, Mr. Green.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. Darren Freedom Green, Just two quick points. I think Ms. Williams makes excellent points that we should change the overall culture and priorities in terms of our gifted and talented students. We have not done that. But I think when you begin to look at Trenton in particular, you have to look at it for what it is. I think the Councilwoman, Mrs. Vaughn, does an excellent job in pointing out that the foundation in a lot of our schools and in our communities is Black and brown. And if we're not looking at what we're dealing with and who we're dealing with, then we're not really addressing the situation correctly. We are not the suburbs. When you begin to look at Trenton and deal with the core reality of what we're dealing with in terms of no libraries, essentially. We do not have any aftercare programs. We do not have any safe havens. When I came up, we had weed and seed. So there's really nowhere for the babies to go but the streets. And then we wonder how they become lost, how they become misdirected, how they become caught up and captivated in crime and criminal behavior. Well, if you're around that 24/7, what are your other options? And I'm not saying that's all they do, but I'm saying they're heavily influenced by what is occurring out here. So when you talk about sports in a predominantly Black and brown community, when you're talking about Trenton public school system, sports is a medium that actually saves a lot of our babies from the streets. It gives them a medium to go through. It gives them activities to participate in. But one of the most profound points is when you talk about the mental health and well-being and the family development, many of these coaches are counselors. And a lot of our babies are traumatized from the reality of being birthed into concentrated poverty, living in communities where we had 40 homicides last year, and just dealing with the dynamic that institutional and structural racism provides in their geographical environment. So sports become a medium of saving them. So when you talk about what message are we sending when we send it, we're not trying to be doing anything other than that. You heard that from Mr. Ingram, who was on before. They actually play on a field where they can't even practice on it because it's such raggedy condition. The field is the last piece of the Trenton Central High School. So we demolished the school but left the field. Aren't we shortchanging these students? And again, when Ms. Williams talks about the overall priorities, if you're not showing these students that they are state-of-the-art, that they deserve the best, that we are giving them everything they deserve, that they go to the township schools and see and experience, but then they come back to their own school and they have to deal with trifling, raggedy materials, old, antiquated schools. And again, we keep talking about rehabilitating the old school. These schools are over 100 years old. When do we get to a point we talk to this Democratic governor about allocating the funding so we can have new schools? Our babies deserve just what they have in the townships. And whenever you talk about the school district as ambassadors of the city, which is what council members are, that's a part of revitalization, because no parent is going to move here and send their child into a raggedy, old, antiquated school. They're going to be asking, is the school system safe and can my child develop, learn, and grow? So when you're talking about sports, when you're talking about gifted and talented, it is not a competition between either. It is us completely committing to both. And I think Mrs. Williams is correct. We need to change the overall culture. And part of the reason why people are leaving, going to the charter schools, because they don't want to send their babies to schools where they don't feel safe and where they don't feel like they're getting the best of the best. And until we cultivate a culture where we're giving our babies state-of-the-art resources, giving them state-of-the-art inventory, giving them state-of-the-art feeling, then the overall culture in this city won't change. And again, I just think we do too much complaining about what we're trying to do instead of collectively building for what we're looking to have all together. We all suffer the same battle. There's no separate Trenton here. We're one city. And until we get our minds together and stop being petty and small-minded and individual and start fighting in individual wars, the collective war will keep losing. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Yes, Council President. Next, we have Chester Jones seeking recognition.
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My sentiments exactly as Mr. Darren Freedom Green just mentioned. My name is Chester Jones. I am 905 Melrose Avenue, City of Trenton, New Jersey, resident for over 18 years. My wife and I started a nonprofit organization just to combat all of those issues Mr. Darren Freedom Green just mentioned. We're looking to create an indoor sports facility where we can handle all of the issues that our youth are facing. I actually sent a proposal to every member of City Council, every department head at the City Hall, including the mayor, and I also sent another message in reference to adopting the land where we are proposing to build this facility. Unfortunately, I'm not getting any headway. So
Mr. Jones, this portion is actually for docket items only. Those docket items that are discussed, your proposal would be more appropriately discussed on Thursday night.
I understand, and I'm not talking about my proposal. I'm talking about in reference to docket item where the city is looking to float a bond to buy turf for the football field. So in reference to that, I'm saying that the city doesn't need necessarily to spend all that money to get AstroTurf for the football field when all they have to do is partner with a nonprofit organization to build the facility so that way that money is not wasted. I mean, it doesn't have to be AstroTurf, but something can be done on the football field. But at the same time, we have residents, nonprofit organizations willing to partner with the city to create that, to circumvent the city having to spend money on things like that. So that's my issue. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Conlon?
Yes, does anybody else wish to be recognized by the Trenton City Council? Or any of the members on the phone wish to be recognized?
I think I'm fine.
Council President, we have Mr. Scott Goldsmith.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you, Council President McBride and other council members. I'm a little late to the meeting, but I did hear regarding the bond, regarding the AstroTurf. I've spoken before. I moved to the city about 19 years ago. I have my students, unfortunately, not in the Trenton School District. I work at Princeton. I'm privileged enough to come here in Princeton. Been a coach for 25 years in a varsity athletic sport. AstroTurf is what we keep on surface, calling it, and we keep on saying the football field. It's an athletic field. For multiple sports, multiple activities can be played on there. It's not just athletic. It's a multi-purpose field like we have here in Princeton. Gentlemen who just spoke before, that'd be great if he's able to do, but that's not what the bond is for, and not here to help him out as well. If this is done, it's like Mr. Green spoke about, the mental health is key for these to happen. And what Ms. Williams spoke about, of course, is precedent first, and we can get that going. But this is the bond that's brought up to the council now. The mental health for these kids that are in a pandemic right now that need to get out on the field eventually will happen. And the turf is just the turn of it. The cost that you will spend if you do not put an AstroTurf or whatever you want to call it in will be double to triple that. You're going to be spending more money down the line over and over to repair a field that's just based on grass. One turf, you're able to have all these other sports on there and other activities that I mentioned before, which is great. The coaches like Mr. Green spoke about are not only coaches, but your guidance counselors out there. So it's important. What we don't want is a wasted time of thinking about if it could have been or would have been or should have been. Either yes or no, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, then we have that gentleman who spoke before as another evidence. I just implore the council to take a look and that it's not just a football field with AstroTurf on it. It is an athletic field for multi-purposes, and hopefully it does get passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the real world, the kind of lands we...
All righty, Mr. Conlon, is there anyone else?
Does anybody else on the phones or on a device wish to be recognized by the Trenton City Council for discussion on new docket items only? Please speak up if you're on a telephone or raise your hand if you're on a device. We'll give everybody a minute. If you're muted, you might want to unmute yourself and try to get recognition. Council President, I don't see anybody else. Does anybody want to enter a motion?
I'll enter the motion to adjourn the public comment.
Motion to close public portion by Council President McBride, seconded by Council Vice President Caldwell-Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, the motion carries. We will now move into civic comments, Council President, with your permission.
Yes, so go ahead, Councilman Blakely.
Thank you so much, President McBride. Do we have a representative from the school district on the line? Do we have a representative, the superintendent or the facilities director of the school system on the line, or school board president?
Good afternoon. This is Addie Lane. I am on the line.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lane. I have a few questions I'd like to ask about the AstroTurf and the other projects in the bond. I just want to state that I support the AstroTurf project. The school system spends over $300 million a year on academic programs. And I support that. And I think that the idea of a gifted and talented program in the city is something that we should explore. And I'm going to be asking some questions about that as well. But I want to start off by asking questions about this particular project, the AstroTurf project, because it seems to have elicited some passion around this issue. I want to start also by saying that we finally have a state-of-the-art high school facility. I did not have the benefit of attending that school when I attended Trenton Central High School, but I'm so pleased that our students have a high school that can be compared to any other school in this district in a favorable way, which I can say was not the case when I attended Trenton High. It was a dump when I attended, and I'm glad it is no longer a dump physically now that we have this new state-of-the-art high school. I would also state that a state-of-the-art high school should have auxiliary facilities that are state-of-the-art as well. So we should have, state-of-the-art academic facilities as well as state-of-the-art extracurricular activities. And I want our students, when that young man who plays football at Penn State came here and talked about how our facility in Trenton is so much different than the facility in other suburban municipalities, I was so disappointed, and I'm glad that we're doing something about it. But I want to get in the weeds of how we finance this and why we are financing this by a bond rather than other ways. So I'm going to start off, Ms. Lane, with asking a question. Why wasn't the facilities, the auxiliary facilities at Trenton High renovated when the new high school was built? So I'd like to start with that question. So did SDA allow state funds to build a new AstroTurf? I'll start with that question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I wasn't quite sure. So actually, when the whole package was put together, I was not actually on the school board, but I do know at that particular time I was actually working for the district. That was not a part of the package. As a matter of fact, even the pool that is in Trenton High now was not part of the package. That we had to, the district at the time had to lobby and petition to get the actual pool to be included in the project. And so there are a number of things that were not included in the original scope of the project, and that was one of them in terms of the field. And so it was not included. And again, just to have the pool included in the high school was a huge fight. So there was, again, that was not included. And in fact, the state did not want to fund not even the pool, let alone an athletic field.
Okay, so that's a good point. The second question that I have is, why are you using bonding as opposed to just paying for it outright? Do you guys have enough capital in your capital projects to support this project? Why are you deciding to use this? Oh, and let me actually, before I ask that question, let me ask a previous question. Can you use SDA funds, Schools Development Authority funds, for this AstroTurf project? So will the state fund this project?
Okay, so right now, the SDA does not have funding. So that therefore, no new schools are being built right now with SDA funding because SDA does not have the funding. If the district were to fund the project, the money would have to come from somewhere. And where would that somewhere be? If the district actually funded the project, the funding would have to be taken away from something else in terms of staffing or in terms of materials or supplies and things of that nature for students. So in fact, if the district were to, let's just say the district, whatever the district fund, the district budget is, the money would have to come from somewhere. There's not, that particular allotment is not in the school budget. If it were, it would have to come from something. It would have to come from something else. Like right now, a lot of the projects that we had to do, if they're emergency projects, like for example, if the roof caves in somewhere tomorrow, right? So we can't just leave the roof caved in. We have to spend the money to actually get the roof fixed. That money has to come from somewhere, right? And that money, the only place it can come from is in terms of what we actually have. That would be the money that we have for staff, or the money that we have for books, or the money that we have for programs. So it would have to come from somewhere, because the way our district is set up, our funding basically primarily comes from the state, right? And so the monies that we get in are very specific, in specific pots. And so if in fact we have to reach over into some other pot for some emergency expenditure, then that's going to cut something else short. And so that's why we're looking for, that's why we're looking for a bond ordinance to do this.
So I'm a little bit familiar with this. I used to be the campaign organizer of Healthy Schools Now at the New Jersey Work Environment Council. So I've worked really closely with the SDA. It's my understanding that, knowing the SDA's project, that they are not going to fund a AstroTurf project when there are dozens, hundreds of projects across the state that deal with health and safety issues that, they're not even accepting. So I know schools have been applying for these emergent projects, and 80-90% of the projects have been turned down, and these are dealing with health and safety. So, quite frankly, if we're going to get this AstroTurf project done, we're going to have to pay for it, and the best way to pay for it is through a bond. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. That is the reason why we're going in that particular direction. The SDA, again, we have a pool at Trenton High School. They didn't consider that to be an urgent need for the high school, but every other high school has a pool. So because they didn't even consider that as something that we needed to have, we had to fight tooth and nail. We had to fight tooth and nail to get it, right? And so we got that. But the field, they would not budge on. I think the tennis courts, they tried to leave them intact, right? And so the tennis courts are there. The soccer field, again, there's some issues there. The baseball diamond, the fields, they would not touch. And so if there are any improvements to be done there, we would have to get it through a bond ordinance rather than, because SDA doesn't have funds, and when they did have funds, they would not spend it for those type things, right? So saying that those are like extras.
And so that's why I'm supporting this bond ordinance, because our students deserve. Listen, when I attended Trenton High, it was almost embarrassing for folks who didn't go to Trenton High up from outside the school to come to our school, because it was a mess, right? And I know that our students who are achieving athletically deserve to have the same feeling that when folks visit their school, that they're proud of their facilities and not ashamed of their facilities. And so I just think this is a good idea. I'm going to be supporting it. However, Ms. Williams brings up a very, very good point, and I want to ask you some questions about the Gifted and Talented program in
okay, Andy. And before you do that, let me just say this, so that one of the goals that the district can you hear me?
What's that?
Councilman Blakely, you had 10 minutes. Where's the time at?
President, can I just have an additional 5 minutes to ask this question about the Gifted and Talented program? I'll try to be.
I have other council members that would like to speak too, so you're going to have to wrap your 10 minutes up.
He's got 2 minutes left, Council President.
All right.
Okay, I just want to say I'm very, very much in favor of a Gifted and Talented program in the Trenton Public Schools. I am going to be introducing a resolution at the next council meeting, working with Ms. Williams to encourage the Trenton Public Schools to develop a magnet program. From what I understand, there was a proposal for a magnet school named after Donald Shelton a few years ago. And I'd like to know what happened with that, and if the superintendent could just share some thoughts about us having a gifted and talented program so that our students are not running off to, prep schools as a senior in high school. And I have other comments about that, but my time is short, so I'm going to give the rest of my time to the superintendent to talk about the issue of this of having a gifted and talented program. Thank you.
I don't think.
Okay, very quickly, the superintendent will speak, but very quickly, one of our goals is to establish a gifted and talented program. We do have honors courses and AP courses at the high school level. We know that the gifted and talented area is one that we definitely need to address, so it is one of our goals. Now, superintendent.
Yes. No. Mr. Collins.
Madam President.
Yes.
Madam President.
Point of order, Mr. Rodriguez, Councilman Rodriguez.
I hear my 10 minutes to the superintendent.
Okay, well, when we get to you, you could do that. But right now, Mr. Blakely is out of time, and Mrs. Caldwell-Wilson, public comments, civic comments is next. And when we get to Councilman Rodriguez, he can yield his time to the superintendent. Councilwoman Caldwell-Wilson.
No, I have no comments at this time.
Councilman Harrison.
You can yield my time to the superintendent. Thank you.
Superintendent, Mr. Rodriguez wanted to yield his time, but Mr. Harrison said he would yield his. Go right ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Blakely was asking about our gifted and talented program, and we have a committee right now in our school district, which Ms. Williams is a part of, who have been unpacking all of our opportunities as we move forward to develop our gifted and talented program. We want a magnet program to be part of that solution, whether that's a year 1 or a year 2 solution. That's the area that we're trying to really unpack at this point, because we want it to be sustainable. There was a gifted and talented program, the Donald Shelton gifted and talented program that was placed at, I believe it was Kilmer School, which over time has not continued to perform and provide services to all of our students. We want to build on the success that we had there years ago and continue with a district-wide solution, which includes enrichment programs in all of our schools, advanced and academically able programming around mathematics, music, drama, performance, and a gifted program where we can retain some of our most gifted students and put them into a magnet type program. But to do it properly, we have to make it a sustainable model, which we can fund on a year-by-year basis and also locate in one of our schools. We had talked about potential placements for this program, and we're still designing. So I do appreciate the interest. I do want to assure the community that we are in the plan and working on developing this gifted and talented approach for as early as next year and for the years forward. But it must be sustainable, and that's our critical point. Whatever we start needs to be able to continue over the next 5 years, 10 years, so we can continue to build on the success. We have many students in our school district and in our community, some who do not go to our schools, who would be very successful in this program. And I'd like to just offer you the assurance that once we have the final gifted and talented proposal aligned and prepared, we will share that with this city council and present it to you.
Thank you. Mr. Councilman Mushal.
No comment at this time. Thank you.
Councilman Rodriguez.
No comments.
Councilwoman Vaughn.
Yes, I just want to quickly start with Mr. Delisle, if he's still on the line. Is Mr. Delisle still on the line?
I am here.
Yes. So a resident is having, well, several residents have called me, but one particular of recent times about the housing inspectors. and maybe some liberties they're giving to certain residents, right? So I just want to make sure, I just want to call this to your attention, and I did go through the mayor's office and Mr. Lowry about this subject. 654 Adeline Street, there appears to be a resident over there that's doing construction without permits and not conforming to the guidelines associated with hours of performing construction. So they're working on these vacant houses all through the night and the late and early morning hours. So folks got to be aware that there's only certain hours during the course of the day and evening where you can do construction, right? So are your inspectors adhering to that and providing that guidance to the community?
Well, certainly, Councilwoman, if they receive, building permits, they'd be aware of that. If they're doing it without permits, then maybe not. But you said you referred this to
Yolanda Vasquez. Mm-hmm. And
this is construct. Okay.
There's some rehabilitation going on in a house that's boarded up. The person does not live there. The house has not been given a CO yet. So there's been ongoing construction there. There's no permit signs on file. There's no permit signs on the property. Now I'm going to tell you this. I did some building on my home, some extensions, and I work with Mr. Buki and I worked with the architect at the time, was Todd Jeter. And there are times that I had to have my contractors 8 a.m. and I believe it was 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., something like that, that they could be doing the work. After that, they couldn't do the work. They had to go home because there's noise levels and disruption on your block, and you can't put cones in the street. So I don't understand.
Sure.
So is this going on? Is the housing inspection, your department, are they out there giving this guidance to these people or doing this rehab on these houses?
Again, Councilman, that wouldn't be through the housing.
Housing inspections is not through housing inspection? Sure it is, right?
It would be.
Or is that zoning?
Councilwoman, if you'd let me finish. It'd be through technical services through the building department, not housing inspections. So I'd be happy to follow up with that. You said what was the address was?
654 Adeline Street.
654 Adeline.
And I just want to say there's some sensitive things going on over there because there are some people who are complaining bias, right? Certain folks are giving favor to certain ethnicities and races. So I just want to raise that sensitivity to you. And I hope that the professionals at City Hall who are going out into the community, and if they are of certain racial group or ethnicity, that they're not giving their certain groups a pass. Everybody in this city should have the law, the ordinances, and the codes of our city applied fairly and equally, right? So I just want to make sure, I just want to make that statement. So, but if anybody senses that they're being discriminated against, then we need to highlight that. Because that's one of the things about our city. Thank you, Mr. Delisle. That's one of the things about our city. We are a diverse city. We are largely people of we're black and brown folks. We have a history of being marginalized and disenfranchised. And we are underserved in every service. And you heard it on the call. You heard it from Miss Lane over at the school board. You heard it from Janice Williams about the school board. When we get projects done in our city, they somehow, some way leave out very critical things. Like, hey, it's a known fact that inner cities require sports facilities. Kids need that enrichment. They need a playground. They need athletic facilities. The best universities in the world have the best athletic facilities. You just don't go sit in the classroom. And education is a well-rounded, priceless, it's a commodity. And for some reason in this city, we have our government, our city government appears to be in opposition of the very residents that they are here to serve. We cannot forget that we serve the population that we serve. Whether you're Caucasian, whether you're Black, whether you're Hispanic, and you lead a department at City Hall, you are serving this population of people. And you need to have the sensitivity level and the knowledge of what that entails. And when certain department heads come to this meeting and talk against the city and disadvantage this city, I have an issue with you, and I will just deem you not an ally or friend of this city, and you don't belong in your job, because you are in your job to serve Trenton and its residents. You should not come here and speak against us and speak against the cities and the residents and the taxpayers of the city. I heard a department head today sit here and want to challenge the residents and taxpayers of the city ownership of their own water utility, and going to sit here and advocate for the customer who filed a lawsuit against us. And tonight, the legal representative who's representing on that lawsuit put a resolution on to help us combat those customers. As the director said, oh, the ratepayers, as if though the city of Trenton aren't ratepayers. Now that individual needs to be gone from the city, and he should not be working here, and he should not be representing, the taxpayer should not be paying him if he's not going to advocate for us. And that goes for folks who come here and work in the law department, who wants to give this city and disadvantage us, does not give us proper legal representation. We're underserved in education. We're underserved in health and human services. We're told today that out of 85,000 people in the city, we only got 1,000 people vaccinated. And that's hailed as a major accomplishment. 84,000 people, only 1,000 people vaccinated. Okay? So we're talking about economic justice here in the city of Trenton. We're talking about equal employment opportunity. We got multi-million-dollar contracts, money taken out of our city, and the contractors don't want to hire minorities and women, and they don't want to fund the training program that train these individuals in construction trades, and we got our law department that sits there and advocates for that. And it's unacceptable, and it will not be tolerated. And I will advocate against anybody, including the mayor, who wants to disadvantage Trentonians and the residents of the city who are black and brown of heritage, of race. It's unacceptable. And so going forward, I don't want to hear any director that received advice and consent who will not advocate for Trentonians. As for the law department, if I was representing a client and this municipal corporation is a client of yours, you need to find a law that forces those contractors to train and be compliant with EEO and affirmative action and hire women and minorities. Do not come to me and this council and tell us that you can't find a law to make them compliant. It's your job. You don't advocate for them. And that's a bunch of crap. You're not doing your job. And you're not worth the money that the taxpayers of Trenton pay you. You work for us. You represent us. If you can't do that, you can't fight for us. You can't advantage us. You can't find a law on the books to get our money back into this city, back into our residents' hands. Then you need to resign from your job and get out of Trenton. So that's all I want to say about that. And thank you, Council President, and thank you all for attending the meeting. And we just got to continue to press forward to get Trenton back to fiscal health and get our libraries installed, get our population healthy, get our school district in order. You know, Black and brown people have been suffering too long. And we don't need any folks who are not allies who are going to work in opposition of that goal and objective.
Time, ma'am.
Equity and equality, economic justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I would just like to first take this time to thank all the directors for coming on this evening. And I would like to thank Dr. Lopez for her presentation. But right now, I would like to just take a moment and offer my condolence to Glendale Bo Latimer. Bo was a Trentonian. He was a boxer. He mentored our children in the streets of Trenton. He did so many things when it came to our children and being a mentor for our children. My siblings went to school with Bo Latimer. I offer my sincere condolences to Frank. I offer my condolences to Rachel Cogsfield Latimer, his wife. And I just like for the people in the city to understand that we must do better. We must do better because as I reflect back on the year 2020 and going into 2021, life is too short for the pettiness. Let us pull our resources together and let us move this city forward because that is the only way. We're at the bottom. There is nowhere else to go but up. And in order to move up, we must do it collectively. And I thank each and every one of you again. I thank Mr. Collins for the meeting process. And I think it goes very well with the time. And I thank all my colleagues for being in attendance this evening. Thank you all and have a good night. And I would like to put a motion forward to adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Council Vice President Colwell-Wilson. All in favor of adjourning?
Thank you.
Need a couple more.
Good night.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? So ordered. We are adjourned 7:58 p.m. Everybody have a great evening.
Colin, we still have the executive session, right?
No, sir. That'll be on Thursday, sir.
That'll be on Thursday. Okay, good. I will see you tomorrow then.
Yes, sir.
What's up?
Ladies and gentlemen, just in case you are still here, up on your screen, you are seeing the City of Trenton COVID-19 vaccination appointment telephone number. It is a busy number as indicated during the meeting, but that number is 609-989-3242. You can dial 0 for the operator. If you Google COVID-19 New Jersey vaccine, that can take you to the state's website. There is a link to register online there, and there is a telephone number there again. It is a very busy number. I urge your patience and continue trying. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Same thing with the city's number. So once again, the city's number is up on your screen right now, and the state number you can find through the through their website. And if you Google New Jersey COVID-19 vaccine, that will be one of the first results. If you have any questions, please feel free to give my office a call, and we'll try to answer any questions that you have, or forward them to the people that can answer them.
we'll then put these properties back on.
Mm-hmm.